Back here on Halftime Smackdown, Tommy Kraft from the Morning Rush, Matty T joining you here from JJ's on Dixon in Fayetteville. We'll start this segment off. Let's go straight to the phone lines. Welcome our buddy from Saturday Down South, the one, the only, Connor O'Gara, joining us here on Halftime. Connor, thanks for adjusting times with us, as I think the whole state of Arkansas is on a collective hangover right now after what happened in the Sweet 16 with the Razorbacks heading into the Sweet 16 yesterday.
Man, I'm right there with you because, you know, I made a pretty public announcement before the start of the tournament that, you know, I was going to hop aboard the Must Bus. And I was previously in this situation where I kind of realized, like, middle of March hits and, you know, conference tournaments are going through. And my alma mater, Indiana, by the way, you're welcome for Justin Smith, also from my hometown of Buffalo Grove, not to brag or anything. But what I've realized is that, man, I'm without a team. And I need a bandwagon team. So I listed out my criteria on Twitter, and, you know, I hopped aboard the Must Bus at the recommendation of many, and, you know, as part of, you know, going on this show regularly. And I got to say, I think I've made a couple of good decisions in my life, and this one is ranking up there with one of the best.
Well, what was it about this team? I mean, you mentioned your criteria, and you can share that with the listeners, but what was it about Arkansas that, like, you jumped on the Arkansas bandwagon instead of, say, an Alabama, an LSU, a Florida? What was it about Arkansas that perked your interest?
Okay, so I wanted to be able to have a team that could light up a scoreboard. I can't sit through a Wisconsin game. I just can't do it. That's not a bandwagon. That's fun. That's a grind. I can't deal with that in my life. I wanted a likable coach who, when they pan to him on the sideline, I don't look at and sort of grimace or wonder, like, you know, what's that guy really about? So, you know, obviously Arkansas checks that box, doesn't have to worry about that. I wanted a team that's at least okay on defense. Like, I don't know if you're watching the Iowa game right now, but that's like the least okay team I've ever seen on defense. That's just a travesty. I don't even know if we can call that defense. And then, you know, I like the bench mob celebrations and all that. And then the Elite Eight upside. Like, I didn't want a blue blood. I didn't want a team that was, like, sitting on the one line. That just feels like, all right, too big of a fair weather fan. I wanted a team that I truly felt like I can enjoy the ride with. So Arkansas was the perfect team. I mean, the perfect team. And I kind of knew it going in. And I love the Justin Smith angle as well. You know, I was really rooting for the kid after, you know, the way that things played out in Archie Miller's offense at Indiana, my alma mater. And, you know, I wanted him to be able to have success with Arkansas. And it's just such a cool thing what Eric Musselman's been able to do with this roster in the way that he's been able to construct it, and it's one that I know, you know, the fan base has fallen in love with. So we've had some fun with it over the first few days here, and I definitely thought I jinxed the team, you know, during the Colgate matchup. Had a few tweets about that, but, you know, just survive in advance. That's the name of the game, and right now I'm just enjoying every minute of it.
Connor, when you look at the bracket and you look at the upsets and you look at the teams like Illinois and you look at Ohio State and some of the big top seeds that have been ousted, who do you think benefits the most in maybe paving that path to the Final Four a little smoother? Arkansas is certainly one of those teams that got to be in that conversation when you look at the way Ohio State came out. With the bracket the way it sits, who's benefited the most from these upsets in your opinion?
Arkansas's up there, but Houston's the team that is really sitting pretty right now. I mean, if you look at the way that it is played out, where Houston went from the team being like Houston's that 2 seed, like they're Kelvin Sampson's team's good and they play a lot of defense, but, you know, are they really like built for the Final Four? Now you look at it and you're like, oh, wait a minute. The only thing separating Houston from the Final Four is 11 seed Syracuse, and then on the other side of the bracket, 8 seed Loyola. Not that that's anything to joke about at this point, and then 12 seed Oregon State. Obviously, 3 teams that are playing out of their minds right now, but at the same time, it's like, okay, you know, just don't lose to a seed that's 8th or worse, and you get to the Final Four. That's a pretty favorable ride. That's it's pretty uncommon. I mean, they had to face Rutgers in the second round, but that's the team that you know is going to stand to benefit the most, because we knew Illinois was going to be standing in their way, and now you know, not having necessarily to cross over that, I think they're a team that would benefit. You know, Arkansas still has the Baylor hurdle, and that's the big thing. Is, you know, sure. I think at that point, if Arkansas were to get to an Elite Eight matchup, they would be considered a very likely underdog. But you know, I don't think they mind that. Based on the way that Eric Musselman reacted to the Todd Furman video, whatever that guy's name is, Musselman doesn't know it either, so I guess I don't have to. But
yeah, we all know it now.
I mean, the way that he reacted to that, this team likes playing to that. And they were an underdog yesterday, which I thought was ridiculous. I couldn't believe that they were a 2-point underdog Texas Tech against the Dave Chris Beard. They have the experience runner-up a couple years ago. But, I think that that's something that they would absolutely thrive in, and they would welcome that. So, yeah, it's been a very fun tournament so far.
See, I would argue that Gonzaga might be. I know they're a 1 seed, and I know they're the number 1 overall seed. But follow me on this. I'd argue maybe Gonzaga is the biggest benefactor with the collapse, the utter embarrassment of the Big Ten, because now without Duke already in the tournament, with no Kentucky, with North Carolina exited, I mean, if Gonzaga's ever going to win this thing, you moved out some of the major hurdles and obstacles in their path that are down the road. Yes, they've gotten to Final Fours, and yes, they've had success, but you're not there just to go to the Final Four at this point if you're the Zags. So they might be, in my opinion, the biggest benefactor, because some of the teams that could cause them issues when it's all said and done are, I think, out of the way now.
Yeah, and that's true. And I guess I didn't really include that because I thought their road was pretty favorable.
They are number 1 overall. Right. It's not like they're an underdog, but
right. You don't have to face Virginia now in a Sweet 16 matchup potentially if you're able to get there if you're Gonzaga, which is, if you don't have to face a team who was technically the reigning national champ, that's always a benefit. And I would never want to see Tony Bennett in a 40-minute scenario with the season on the line. But I think that they're still going to have a potentially challenging road if they are to face maybe a Kansas or maybe an Oregon. In Oregon right now, the way that this game is going against Iowa, a lot of time left in Iowa to light the scoreboard, no doubt about it. But I mean, that's a team with Dana Altman that is doing all sorts of good. And I know that they didn't get the first round game because of the cancellation with VCU, but. And I just think that we're bracing for madness. And a year that felt so top-heavy has proven to be just all over the place in terms of the upsets. And I saw that they had like 11 such games or whatever, a record for most technical upsets ever, which is the criteria being 5 seeds or worse. So that this one, if they were to hold, would fall in that camp as well. But yeah, I mean, I think that that's going to be fun to watch. And as an Indiana grad, I'm admittedly like, there's a part of me that's like, please don't let Gonzaga become the first undefeated team in college basketball since that Indiana team 75-76. But we'll see how things play out.
Connor, could there be an argument made that the format, while never designed to be this way, we've learned some things by having all the games in and around Indianapolis, and maybe
I've been saying this for a while.
Maybe there's a model that you could look at having a different locale each weekend, or is the regionality and giving the advantage still to the upper seeds in parts of the country and limiting travel still too attractive? I think it's almost like going to Disney and getting the park hopper. You could go to Indianapolis. Right, yeah. You could go to Indianapolis and get the stadium or venue hopper pass and watch a game over here 1 hour and then go to 3 hours later over here. Is there some merit to the idea of maybe looking at 3 different sites for the 3 different weekends, and it's in Indy, then Atlanta, then Dallas, or I'm just throwing out 3 towns. But what do you think about the format, and is there some viability for maybe looking at this as a future model?
Yeah, the Park Pass thing. I live in Orlando, and so, I mean, I haven't necessarily done the Park Pass thing. I think that's built for people with a different kind of stamina than what I have personally.
I'm with you. I've never done it either. But it sounds good when you buy the ticket. It's never good when you get there. Exactly. Like, are we really going to, just go to a different park at 4 o'clock when everybody's gassed right now and nobody's any energy? No, I don't think so. But I like the way that this is set up. And, again, I'm admittedly biased. I just think basketball in the state of Indiana is so cool, and it would be an incredible thing to see there specifically with full crowds. I think it's cool enough seeing places like Hinkle get this kind of stage, and it's something that we don't really see. And I threw out the tweet the other day, is there a comparison for this in college football? But it's kind of been a blessing in disguise that it's been able to play out like this, where you have a state that has the means to be able to host a tournament like this. And I like it. I don't necessarily think that the regionality in the NCAA tournament is that big, though it does always feel like Kansas, for whatever reason, ends up getting like a 1 seed, and then they play in Kansas City, and then they're playing a regional final in front of a home crowd or something like that. But, this in a way would actually kind of take the regionality out of it. And I think that it'd be kind of nice to be able to do that, because if you want more madness, which this is what this is produced. Well, this is a TV event. This is a 3-week TV show. This isn't proven. This is not about fans buying tickets anymore. That's not how they make their money. They make their money on TV. It's a TV show.
It doesn't matter, because fans will travel to this, and fans will travel locally, and fans will travel to get to a place like this. And, I think you can get away with it. And I think that's something that they have to look into because, I think it does kind of lose some of that feel when it's spread out all over the place. And I remember, I traveled back when I covered Indiana basketball back in 2012, and they went to, the first round in Portland. And, that's super far away. But, you're playing with teams in that region who, aren't even in your own region, the way that it's set up. And, because it's based on regionality and not necessarily, where you're supposed to be in terms of the bracket. And then the next weekend it's in Atlanta. And it just had this kind of, disjointed feel to it. And I like the fact that it's all in the same place. If they went to that model in the future, I would not hate it one bit.
It's going to be fun to see where this thing really turns out and plays out. A couple more seconds here with Connor O'Gara. Connor, you mentioned it earlier, just you're a former Indiana grad. You've covered Indiana basketball for some time. We've heard a little bit of some, not really buzz. I think it's just more rumors from fans that maybe Coach Musselman, that Indiana may try to go after Coach Musselman. What does Indiana basketball need to do? I heard a really cool piece on, I think it was on ESPN Radio somewhere, but Indiana's went after the established coach, they went after the young coach. Where, in your opinion, does the Indiana basketball need to turn to next?
Oh, I mean, if I'm Scott Dolson, the AD, I'm throwing a lot of money at Musselman. Now, I don't think Musselman listens to that because I think so much of what they've been able to build in Fayetteville is a culture that truly appreciates basketball, and there aren't many places where you can go a quarter century without making it to the second weekend of the NCAA tournament and have the fan support that they have in Arkansas, and that matters. Trust me when I say that coaches think about that stuff. And I think Hunter Yurachek, the way that we've seen him negotiate contracts as well on the football side, I would tend to think that that's going to get taken care of, and he's not going to let another school come in and take his guy. But at the same time, I think Indiana is going to end up making a splash with a guy like Chris Beard. I think Chris Beard is the option. I think that they go in and they try and make an aggressive move for someone who Arkansas fans became very, very familiar with. That's what the betting odds are saying. I think that's where they end up going. They don't end up going with a Steve Alford or something like that, or one of those cliche names. They're not going to get Brad Stevens, but I would love for Indiana to be able to get someone who's had some proven experience on the big stage in the modern era, and not necessarily someone who was good 10 or 15 years ago.
Yeah, that $5 million buyout to get Musselman might be too hefty even for Indiana to come in and pay that to buy out his contract, because that's what it would cost through the end of April. So.
Yeah, not cheap, but when you're a school that's willing to pay an 8-figure buyout for a head basketball coach, you never say never.
It's going to be a lot of fun. Connor, we appreciate you adjusting times with us, and thanks for joining us here on Halftime. We'll talk to you a week from today, my friend.
Sounds good. Take it easy, guys.
That's Connor O'Gara from Saturday Down South. You can check out all his work at SaturdayDownSouth.com. Hey, whether you're fishing in cold water on bass on Beaver Lake or Table Rock, or fishing for the trophy brown trout on the Mighty White River, the Smithwick Original Suspending Rattling Rogue will catch them. Tommy Kraft uses it, and I guarantee it, if Tommy will recommend it,
use it this weekend.
You're going to use it this weekend. You got the family coming up. It's going to be an awesome option for you. The Rogue suspends. It'll stay in the strike zone longer, allowing you to catch more fish. You can find the Smithwick Original Suspending Rattling Rogue, along with all kinds of other great options from Pradco Fishing at Walmart, Bass Pro Shop Academy, Lurenet.com, and tackle stores all over the place. That is the Smithwick Original Suspending Rattling Rogue from Pradco Fishing Outdoors. That is Pradco Fishing. We got more halftime. We'll wrap up the show coming up next and put the cherry on the top of this incredible Monday feeling of the Hogs heading to another Sweet Sting. More halftime next.